The last thing that we have to do inside of our post show component is take the post that we're receiving as a prop and show it inside the render function. So rather than showing the hard-coded text post show, I would like to show the post title, categories, all that kind of good stuff. So not a lot of complexity here. I think that we can just use a little bit of markup to show some details about the particular post. Because we're going to refer back to the post a couple times, let's do a little bit of destructuring. So we'll say const post is coming from this.props. Then inside of here, let's place an h3. We'll show the post.title. Let's do an h6 for the categories, and maybe we'll put a little label on there as well. It's post.categories. And then we'll put a paragraph tag on for post.content, like so. Okay, I think that we're about ready to test this thing out. So when we render this component inside the browser, we should reach out to fetch the given post. Once we get the post back, we'll select it from the post object, that's our application state, and then we will render some details about it onto the screen. So let's give this a shot. Now, the first thing we do need to do is make sure that we render a post that we have an ID for. So inside of my network browser over here, I'm going to refresh the page while I'm specifically looking at my list of posts. If I look at an individual request, so here's the list of posts right here, I can find the ID for one of my existing posts on this list. So I'm going to take the 81887 right here, and I should be able to navigate to post/81887. So do make sure that you're using a very real post ID right here. If you are not using a real post ID, you will not see anything appear on the screen. Okay, so let's give this a shot. I'll go over here, and it looks like nothing happens. How interesting. So let's look at the console, and you'll see an error message. You should see something that says something like, cannot read property title of undefined. Well, that's definitely interesting. Let's think about what's going on here. Okay, so I'm looking at my post show component. I want you to think very carefully about the order of operations inside of our application. When this component is first rendered to the screen, it then calls the component did mount lifecycle method. So component gets rendered to the screen, component did mount gets called, and we reach out to fetch our post. Then once we fetch the post, something Redux, it goes through connect, blah, blah, blah. Component re-renders, and we show details about the post on the screen. So what's the missing piece here? What are we really missing? Well, the key is the first part of that whole flow. Our component is getting rendered to the screen one time before we even attempt to fetch our post. During that time, before we've even attempted to fetch our post, we don't have any post with the correct ID sitting in memory. So when we try to reach into our big ol' object containing all these posts, this statement down here will return undefined. And so post of undefined will be passed into our application or into our component. And so we are literally trying to look at the property title of undefined. Essentially, post right here is coming in as undefined to our application. To resolve this, we can add a little bit of a check to our render method. Inside of here, before we try to access any of the nested properties on the post itself, we can look at the post and we can say, hey, if we don't have one, how about instead of trying to return this big old block of JSX down here, let's just return a div that contains the text loading, like so. So now, if we render this component when a post has not yet been fetched correctly, we'll show the loading div, and then once the post is fetched and this component re-renders, we will then have a post available, and we'll hit this block of JSX instead. So let's test this out. I'm going to flip back over, I'll refresh the document, and now we see the post appear on the screen. Perfect. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. I want to let you know that data issues like this, where you try to access properties on an element or a record that does not yet exist, is something that you are going to run up against inside of React and Redux just all the time on your personal projects. I guarantee you, you are going to run into this issue right here. So whenever you start to see messages appear on your screen like cannot read property title of undefined, do double check to make sure that the record you're trying to access actually exists. And if it does not, you can add in a simple check to say, well, if we don't have that data yet, no problem, just do something else. Okay, so this is looking pretty good. I think that the last big thing that we need to take care of on this component is make sure that it has a big back button somewhere. And we also need to make sure that we can delete this post as well. So let's take care of both of those issues in the next section.